So welcome back to Faith from Friday. For the first case for this week, we are going back to Illinois. We're not going to Chicago. We're actually going to a nearby city, like a more suburban and like less crime filled of Chicago, and it's referred to as Elk Grove. And so this case apparently was like pretty well known at one point, considering like how shocking it was. And so basically all my information is down below. Definitely know your thoughts down below in this case. I will give a trigger warning. There are mentions of child grooming, sexual assault of a child, bestiality, and obviously murder. So with that being said, let me cut my rambling and let's go and get started. So Patricia Columbo was born on June 21st, 1956. Father Frank was born on February 18th, 1933. Her mother Mary was born on Valentine's Day in 1934. Her parents did get married, and for context, the family apparently is like Italian American. So Frank was working as a auto parts salesman, while Mary pretty much was a stay-at-home mom, because they were like the traditional family. You know, the man goes out and works, the woman stays home to take care of the kids. And Patty's pretty much like the only child until she's like 7. And then her younger brother Michael was born to the world on April 10th, 1963. And apparently, like, Patty didn't like this, not only because it took the attention away from her, obviously, but also because they had a dog already named Mike. So to name your child Michael, it seemed kind of weird, which understandable. So sadly, we get to a point to our story where it said that a man named his Uncle Gus. So not sure if he's actually an uncle, but it literally said he's like her godfather, or just like to call him uncle. So I guess that's like a thing they do. She would go over to like his house often, and he would violate her. There was never apparently any actual penetration, but obviously that doesn't like make it better. I imagine. Okay, so basically, what they meant by there was never any actual penetration. He never put himself inside of her. Which doesn't make it any better. That's still fucked up. But like, and so apparently, whenever she wasn't doing this, she was going to the library. And so her mother, Mary Columbo, she was concerned that she got to a point to where she literally stopped Patty from going to the library. And she would claim that she was concerned that Patty was actually meeting up with boys, or that perverts were actually picking up kids at the library. She would instead go over to the godmother's house, which of course she's married to Uncle Gus. So Uncle Gus would pick her up on a Friday, once a month, still, of course, taking advantage of her, and this proceeds to force her to go on for about 3 years. At one point, apparently, he had discussed going, like, all the way with her, and at this point, she's considering, I need to tell my dad, you know, like, but she's concerned that Frank is going to kill Gus, which, I mean, any good father would do that in this situation. And so she didn't want her dad going to jail for killing Gus, because then she'd probably feel guilty. And she felt that Mary would probably call her a liar and not believe her. So she pretty much said nothing. She did have thoughts of suicide, unfortunately, because that's common in these situations. Apparently her godmother and Uncle Gus would move to Elk Grove, where they were living at in 1968, meaning they were closer. So Patricia didn't have to have Gus drive her around anymore, and apparently this is said to have been the end of the abuse. So then, fast forward to like when she's like 16, she drops out of school and she starts working. So she's working. She would rack up like $1,000 of debt because she had stolen like 2 credit cards of her coworkers. Frank would basically pay like all the fines, so she wouldn't go to jail, but she was sentenced to 2 years probation. So Patricia apparently is working at a sandwich shop, and apparently in the sandwich shop, there's a Walgreens, and the manager of a Walgreens, there's this man who he's like 34, he's married, he has like 5 kids, and he goes by the name Frank DeLuca. So then Frank DeLuca, he was born on June 28, 1938, so he's like almost 18 years her senior. He would graduate high school in 1956, which is the same year that Patty was born. He goes to Purdue University for like football, but then gets cut. He leaves after like 2 semesters, so it's believed to be, I want to say like an injury or something. Because usually, obviously, if you're like injured and there's something that can't be like fixed, obviously your scholarship would be cut. And so he winds up going to this program with Walgreens where you work with them for a little bit, and if you work for us long enough, we'll forgive your loan. So you basically don't have to pay the loan back. So in 1960, apparently he would marry a woman by the name of Marilyn. So remember I said he was married, and they did wind up having the 5 kids together. Didn't have his exact time stamp on when each of them were born. So in 1963, he would start working on his bachelor's degree. He becomes a manager in 1969. And remember I said Patty at this time, she's like 16. So apparently, Frank would come in like every day to this coffee shop, and Patty would give him special attention. It didn't matter if she was already with a customer. As soon as she saw him come in, she would try to hurry up and get to like him as soon as possible, see if she could service him any way whatsoever. And it got to a point to where he offered her a job But apparently at Walgreens, you have to be at least 18 to work. So she lied and said she was 18. And he told her that he was 28. Remember I said he was 34, married with 5 kids. So obviously he leaves out the part where he's married with the kids. So then, of course, the two, unfortunately, started developing a sexual relationship. And instead of, because it's already illegal, because remember I said she's a minor, and this man's old enough he could have been. He was like, I think, literally 4 years younger than her father, Frank Columbo. And yes, Frank, her father, and Frank, the dude she's saying, they have the same name. So, make of that what you will. So like I said, the two are having a sexual relationship. They include the dog. Like, Frank has a German Shepherd, and apparently they're including the dog, like, in these acts, and apparently there's, like, photos of it, but obviously, like, those photos ain't gonna be available on the internet, because, that's 2 crimes. That's bestiality and child pornography, because, again, Patricia's a minor. But, of course, Patricia, she don't give a shit. She's showing this to, like, her classmates. So, I guess she never really dropped out, because sources are saying she was still in school. But anyway, yeah, like, she was showing this to her classmates, and nobody gets, like, reported this crime. So obviously imagine Marilyn being the wife, there would be times where she would visit Frank, and they, of course, like, quick little kisses, because, they're married, show some affection, and he would lie and tell Patricia that was his sister. And, of course, Patricia, being 16, being naive, she just went for it. She just went with it. And so she would find out from a coworker, that's his wife, he's married, they have 5 kids, and his real age. So understand, but she's freaking out. He would tell her, yes, I am married, real age, yeah, I got kids, all that. I will leave Maryland for you, but I need time, as they always do. And then this is apparently when she decides to disclose her actual age. So sometime later, it doesn't say exactly what type of cancer, but Mary, the mother, she winds up getting cancer, unfortunately. And Patricia, of course, being the oldest, she has to take all the responsibilities. Because Frank's working. Michael, he's still young, so obviously he can't do everything himself. So then that's where Patricia comes in. I'm assuming like the cooking and the cleaning, so the shit that Mary was doing. So then she would move out soon after to go move in with John and Marilyn and all these damn kids. Apparently in around April 1974, she would get her own place. I guess not her own place, but a place with Frank DeLuca, and then asked her father, Frank, for like help with like money. So he was giving her money for like rent and stuff, because remember this is the 70s, so rent was like a lot cheaper than it is now, apparently. So he finds out that Frank, she's seeing a man who is technically is married, has a lot of kids, almost as old as him, dating his underage daughter. Apparently she's like 17. So she's underage. Anyway, so yeah, they get a place. Frank, the daddy, he obviously ain't happy about that. The father, Frank, he shows to the Walgreens where Frank DeLuca is working. He shows up with a shotgun. Obviously, he's pissed. He's ready to, like, kill this dude, because this dude's seeing his underage daughter and taking advantage of her. So, obviously, he's like, I gotta take matters to my own hands. So, then he winds up hitting Frank with, like, the butt of the gun, and it knocks, like, 2 of his teeth out. And Patty, of course, she calls police. She presses charges against her own father. Father Frank does, of course, get arrested. But then Patty, of course, like, I changed my mind, and charges wind up getting dropped. So, then after that happens, it is believed that's when she's taken off both of their wills. Because even though they're, like, in their 30s, you still never know. You gotta have a will just in case something happens. Little they know something would. But yeah, it's believed at that point, Patty was cut off financially and taken out of the will. So she's practically like disowned. Patricia would meet with these 2 men who were like claiming to be hitmen named Ernie and Roman. And they were like, oh, we want like, I can offer you 20 grand. She was like, I can offer you 20 grand. They're like, we want half up front, so we know it's like, this is legit. And she was like, I don't have the money now, but I can sleep with you if you do it. You get the money. So then they were like, yeah. So then they both were sleeping with her, and she was trying to get them, like, she was serious about trying to get them to kill the whole family. She was like, look, I need this done. She drew out blueprints. She had left the door unlocked multiple times at the house, so that way they could sneak in, and it wouldn't look like an armed robbery, because, like, you know what I mean? Like, there was no forced entry, because, like, the door was unlocked. And so, of course, they weren't going to do it. They were getting sex and money out of this girl. And apparently, it said that they got 2 grand out of her. So, of course, Patricia, she tells Frank, like, hey, remember that time he hit you with the butt of your gun and knocked your teeth out? Yeah, he's going to come back and finish the job and actually kill you. So, we need to kill him first before he can kill you. And then, apparently, she was mentioning something about an inheritance of $250,000, which I don't know how she, like, knew about that. But apparently, she knew. By this point, she's already cut off. But, of course, she doesn't know that. So on the fateful day of May 4th, 1976, the 2 go to the Columbo home. So they go over together, right? But it's said that it's believed that Frank was hiding behind a corner. So that Patricia looked like she's alone, like she left him, like she's sorry, she's come back for forgiveness, that kind of stuff. And so, of course, them being family, of course, they're going to forgive her, open her back arms, because that's their daughter. Little they know, Frank's there. They get in the house. They wind up shooting both Frank and Mary with a .32 caliber. Neither of them die right away. So Frank, the father, he is beaten with a lamp, and Mary has her throat slit. And these are both done by Patricia. So then she goes upstairs. Michael, despite all this noise, he is still sleeping somehow, and she wakes him up, and she gets him like literally out of the bed. She gets him up. She's like, "Hey, like, get up." He gets up. That's his sister. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. This poor child. And then she basically bludgeons him with a trophy, and then grabs some random scissors that I guess were like just happen to be nearby, and she stabs him 87 times, and of course that kills him. So then of course it says that the temperature was turned up to 100 degrees. We don't know which one of them did that, so I can't exactly pin it on like, oh, this one did this, like I don't know exactly who did it, but it's believed they did that to like speed up the decomposition process to dispose of evidence, because sometimes killers will do that. So then 3 days later, they stole Frank's car, because remember I said they're in Elk Grove. This is a nice little suburban area, low crime rate. They take the car apparently to the south side of Chicago, which is like very heavy crime. So they're expecting the car to like get some parts stolen. That way it sells their story that the car was stolen, and hopefully it looks like a robbery gone wrong. And they even like do the classic make the house look like a robbery gone wrong. So then of course police, they do find the car. They run the plates. It's registered to Frank. They call Frank. Ain't nobody answering because of course they're all dead. But of course police don't know that. So they go over to Elk Grove. Let Frank know, like, hey, we done found your car. It was never reported stolen, but we found it. Well, they see a pile of newspapers out of the front porch. It's been there for about 3 days. So that was a red flag, apparently. And then they hear the dog, because remember I said they had a dog. Apparently Mike, he survived like the whole thing. So they hear like Mike, the dog, barking. And then the officer, he has a bad feeling. He calls for backup, understandably. And that's where they go in and find all the bodies. Then of course, obviously the robbery motive was pretty much thrown out right away, because a lot of like their expensive items were still there, including like Mary's like wedding ring, which apparently had been like really big. So as you can imagine, like they would have stolen pretty much anything they saw of value, at least most of it. But most stuff that had value was still there. They had a phone book full, like an address, basically a phone book full of contacts and stuff, right? And the page just had to be open to Patricia, which is their daughter, which she's nowhere to be seen. So of course they're calling her, trusting where she's at. They call her down to the station, let her know, like, hey, your whole family's been murdered. So she instantly claims a mob hit. And then this is the part that kills me. Allegedly, and I'm saying allegedly because I've seen this on like one source. Allegedly, she told the police, look, we're Italian, we're in the mob. My father was secretly doing some mob business, his auto business, as a cover for the mob. And this is probably a mob hit. And so, of course, the funerals happened like 3 days after the bodies are found, but like 6 days after the actual murder. Of course, they're all close casting due to the brutality of the crime. Patricia is there. Obviously, she's supposed to be like mourning the loss of her family. They're supposed to, she's like laughing and joking and going outside and smoking. Frank DeLuca is there, but he's like in the background. So he's not like trying to make himself known because he wasn't exactly liked by Frank. So he was basically just trying to blend in. So then police decide we're going to send in an officer, but it's going to be undercover, and it's going to be a young, attractive officer, and Patricia is flirting with him, and apparently she was flirting so much that relatives thought that Frank was that was Frank, that was her boyfriend, because they had never seen Frank before, and she's over flirting so much, that would have to be Frank. Why else would she be flirting with this man at her parents' funeral? So police actually are wiping fingerprints off Frank's car, and they find that there is a index finger missing. So they were like, okay, either the index finger did not make contact, or there's no index finger at all. And this is like their left hand. And when you know it, Frank actually doesn't have an index finger due to a skydiving accident. So then a hair will be found on Michael's body that like belonged to Patricia. So obviously that connects her to the crime. On May 14th, both of them were arrested and charged with triple homicide for the 3 murders. Employees of Frank's would say that they saw Frank washing and burning clothes that had blood on them the day after the murder. So Frank, of course, wanted them to keep quiet because they technically could tell about like what happened. And so apparently while in jail, he even tried to have like witnesses killed. But one of the inmates that he tried to like get like a hit. He tried to get a hit on. He was able to go to the police and like tell them like, hey, this man's trying to play another hit. Before the plan was successful, luckily. So then both were sentenced to 200 to 300 years in jail. So in 1979, it said that Patty was actually organizing a prostitution ring with her pimping out basically the inmates to the guards. And apparently the warden was in on it. And apparently the scandal caused some people to resign, even though other sources say that only the warden resigned. Either way, it was apparently a scandal. So then, of course, she is up for parole again. Sorry, she's up for parole for the first time in like 1984. So only 8 years after this happens. That, of course, gets denied. She's denied parole again a few years later. In 1988, she does take responsibility for the crime, which is something that I'm pretty sure that they want when you apply for parole. Like, admit, yes, you did do it. But she did show remorse, which is, again, that's another big thing they want, is like remorse, to show you're sorry for what you did, to be let back in society, to know you won't do it again. And apparently it said that she has since earned a bachelor's degree and has been a model prisoner, and has been denied at least 18 times for parole. Had Frank ever been released, he would have to have registered as a sex offender. Marilyn, who was Frank's wife, she sadly would die in 2020. And then Frank actually died earlier this year on January 4th. So January 4th, 2023, Patty is still in jail. And of course, I imagine she's still trying to get paroled. That's it for this episode. I'm here for you guys 3 times every Friday. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.